Hi everybody. I want to start out the video by showing you these pictures by my friend Trent Holbert. Notice the color of the silos. This was in bright sunlight, bright blue sky. The sun was right on them. They looked very tan. Most pictures, every other picture I have, they look gray. So I didn't really want to emulate this picture. But also notice that large white patch on the third one. And there's some smaller ones on the first one. I tried to duplicate those as well as I could. You can see it a little bit better from this angle. And actually in this one, they look a little bit more gray. So let me show you what I've done so far, and then we'll talk about the lines on the elevators. Here's what I ended up with. So you can see I've got some paint, tried to sort of emulate the patches a little bit. In the pictures I have, those lines look very distinct. They probably were not that distinct in real life. I need to blend those a little bit better. I've got the color, definitely not as gray as it was, but it's not as tan as it was in that one picture either. I didn't like having the one window, so I patched it, put in two, and they're directly above the seams where it was on the real one. I'm calling this pretty much done, with the exception of trying to maybe, blend those in a little bit more. Make it look like it's not just really, because it was probably like painted with a roller, I imagine. So let's talk about the lines, where I'm at on that. I was in Chillicothe. I went down to Douglas Avenue to Gillum's, which was the company that tore down the silos. I think they tore down the whole complex, but the picture in the paper is of them tearing down these concrete silos, guy with the bulldozer. He was not there, but this was 33 years ago, so he may be retired, I don't know, but one of the Gillum family was there, who's about my age. So he was in his 20s when this was all going on. Another guy there that worked for him was about the same age, and they remember it very well. And they said that the bands that you see in the photos around the silo were steel bands. They weren't form marks from pouring concrete or anything. They were actually steel bands. I have not found another photo of silos with those bands. I've seen them, like on farms, the little ones. Well, I mean, they're not little. They might be 40, 50 feet tall, but their diameters is pretty small compared to what these were. But they remember it very well. And they said those little things you can see that stood out in the pictures, that's where the bands joined together. I don't know if they're actually turnbuckles or not. But since I've painted and weathered and everything to try to get the right color and right texture, you can hardly see them anyhow. To be honest with you, I don't care. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, if you look close, you can still see them down through here in some places, but for the most part, the painting has taken care of them. But so I'm fairly happy with the way it came out. So I'll show you the other side of it, and then we'll get talking about the old historic original grain elevator. So here's the other side. Again, this was like the rail cars would have been down in through here. So this side wasn't as visible as the other side. But now let's talk about the historic main building of the wood elevator. And I'm just going to tack it right onto this one. So it's going to start out like it's a new video, but this is too short to actually make a video of its own. So the next section of my project is going to be this thing in the middle, the actual elevator. The depot, this was built in 1866, Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad Depot. The tracks came up behind it. And this was a railroad warehouse, at the same time built by the B&O, at the same time, 1866. This was a boiler house for the elevator. So according to the history that I've read it, This and the warehouse were there, and then they built the elevator in between them. When they moved, the railroad moved the depot down to East Main Street, where when the N&W came through, Chillicothe had a Union Depot that served both railroads. Moved it down next to the shops. So I'm going to build this section right here first. Then I'm going to work on the depot section and the boiler room later. So as I showed you on the Sanborn map, these were all wood with the exception of the boiler room. We'll talk more about that later. So it shows that it was brick on there. This little section was brick, but it may have been, it's either painted gray, because you can tell everything was just painted with this cheap gray paint, and, or it was covered with wood siding, but then it has metal building on top of it. That's going to be a separate project. Some things to point out on this. Had a slate roof, and these sides are slate. I'm going to show you a historical picture of when it was first built. And this is black over here too. So whether they at some point covered this slate with wood, and then they covered the slate down here with shingles, I'm not sure, because different pictures show different things. This was obviously in the 80s, shortly before it was torn down. It's sort of like the way I remember it. The depot and the warehouse just had shingle roofs on them. These things up at the top, they were added later, by about 1950s, 1960s. They started expanding. This dust collector, found one on, I just searched like N-scale dust collectors and found on Etsy they had some, and so I've ordered some. It's not going to be an exact match, but I really didn't want to try to build it, to be honest with you. So we'll see what it looks like. The battens, my friend Trent, who I've showed you some of the pictures, he measured, they were 12 inches apart. So those were some big boards. Pretty good match for the board and batten siding I got from Evergreen. And right across here, it says standard elevator in raised metal letters. I don't know how I'm going to duplicate that. I might have to just have a sign that says standard elevator on it. I'll look around for letters like that, but that may be tough to duplicate. So this is the oldest picture I have. It's probably taken in the 1890s. The canal was still in business. As you can see, a canal boat just behind the right side of the bridge. But the canal is frozen. I remember hearing stories about people used to ice skate on the frozen canal. So here's a close-up of the roof. You can see that the diagonal line, so I tried to replicate that on my model. And in this picture where I circled, could just be the angle of the picture or whatever, but that sort of looks like it's painted gray to me. Again, I can't tell. This is the only picture I have that shows that being gray, if it is gray. And here's the back side. Again, my friend Trent Hulbert, and everything looks black there. And you see pretty good the extensions on top of it. From this picture, you can see a couple things. You can see there's 4 doors on the back and a window. Plus, if you can see in the extensions on the top, that one on the left looks like it's maybe painted red at one time or a different color for sure. And it's sort of peeling off. So I made a little mock-up of the station. I think it's just a little bit too short. I've got it sitting on a couple pieces of styrene to represent the foundation. But judging where the roof on the station hits this band that goes around there, I think the station needs to come up just a little bit higher. Again, but I'm just guesstimating all these because I did not know the height of this building. So I'm just trying to make it look correct. In case you're wondering, I did buy the Walthers Grand Elevator kit, and it is not board and batten. It's actually a little taller. So I actually cut 10 feet out of this because I thought it was just a little bit too tall. I just used 3/8 inch balsa for the foundation. Again, that's going to end up at about the right height to load 40-foot boxcars on. So let me move the camera so you can see more of what I did with the slate roof. This is the Water Street side. This is the side, the original elevator, the canal ran down through here. Had 2 doors on this side. For the slate, what I did was I took some clapboard siding, which you can't really tell, and I cut it diagonally just to match the photos. Painted it black. Now weathered it with the snow, the Tamiya weathering powders, and I may do a little bit more on that. So you can see the extensions on the top. Again, this one looked like at one time it was painted red, peeling a little bit. I just made them kind of rusty a little bit. So let me flip this around and so you can see the back side of it. This is the back side. This is where the tracks would have been. And of course, when this was built, no such thing as covered hoppers existed, so they put grain in boxcars. And all the had 4 doors back there. They're very close together. This is full scale length and width. It's 60 feet long. So of course the doors and the windows and all that, they're Tichy train group. And I just had to pick out ones that I thought looked right for the job, or right size and everything. So because I have no idea what size they actually were. Most of the photos, it looked like, of course, they were taken in the summertime. Looks like they had some windows open up here for ventilation. So I made them open. Of course, it's going to have pipes and stuff coming in here, connect to the other silos and everything. And the backs of the depot, since I flipped it around, the depot is going to be right here. There's a door, which you can't see here, that would come up a set of steps and would come up into it. And this side over here is just plain styrene, because it's going to butt up against where the boiler room was, and then had the big extension on it. So no need to make that board and batten. Some of the long-time subscribers may recognize this. It was a experimental scenery module that I built. I was getting ready to build Grassy Fork up here, and I had never built scenery before. I'd never done static grass. I'd never used Sculptamold. I'd never poured water before. Never done anything like that. So I found a Luke Tolan video. I sort of used it to guide me. There is a playlist on my channel where I take step by step how I built the frame. I did everything. If you're interested in doing it, you know, if you've never built a layout, done any scenery before, you know, you can check it out. That's not why I'm showing it to you, but just thought I'd mention that in case someone wants to do it. Oh, by the way, the trees are long shadowed model trees. Really nice for representing large, mature trees in N scale. I'm showing you this because it's been sitting on top of my layout collecting dust quite a while. You can see my finger streaks in it. I have no use for it. It served its purpose. It's time to dismantle it. Put the bridge in a scrap box somewhere that, I don't know if I'll ever use it, but who knows, might. Put the trees somewhere safe, and about everything else is going to go with the exception of the frame. Reason why is I need somewhere to start laying out a standard elevator, the whole complex, all the buildings. And that's just taking up space. I see no reason to keep it around collecting dust anymore. So I'm going to take the components off of it, salvage what I can, and use the frame to start laying out standard elevators. So I thought I'd show it to you one last time anyhow, because, you know, I enjoyed building it. And even if you don't have a layout, I don't have space for a layout. I live in an apartment. Someday I'll have a layout. This is 2 foot by 1 foot. You can build this. Just get your feet wet. I did it. This was the first time I did any of this stuff. So you can do it, you know. So, you know, no excuses. You know, I have very little money in this. The bridge was by far the most expensive thing on this. And you don't have to start with a bridge, you know, that expensive. It did teach me that I don't want a bridge that big in Grassy Fork. I don't want bridges longer than my trains. So I learned a lot from building this. So anyhow, check out the playlist if it's something you're interested in doing. But this is going to be the last time you're going to see it, because pretty soon I'm going to be taking everything off of it and reusing the frame. So everybody stay safe.